My fiancée insisted her brother be my best man. He lost our rings. He was devastated and she begged me to forgive him. I acted understanding, but I had my doubts. A pawn shop receipt I found in his car told a very different story about where our rings really went. I, 29, male, am a graphic designer living in Portland, Oregon. My life felt like it was finally falling into place. I was engaged to Jenna, a woman I adored, and we were just 2 weeks away from our wedding day. There was only one point of contention in our entire wedding planning process. My best man. I had always assumed it would be my best friend since kindergarten, Sam. But Jenna was adamant. She insisted that her younger brother, Kyle, be my best man. It would mean the world to him, Mark, she'd said, her eyes pleading. Our dad isn't with us anymore, and he looks up to you like a father figure. Please. Kyle was fine. He was a bit of a screw-up, bouncing between jobs and always seeming to be in some minor trouble. But Jenna loved him fiercely, so I relented. I made Sam a groomsman and gave the best man title to Kyle. I figured it was a small sacrifice to make my future wife happy. I should have trusted my instincts. The disaster happened during my bachelor party weekend. Kyle was in charge of our custom-made wedding rings, valued at over $10,000. He had insisted on holding them for a best man's toast he was planning. On the last night, after a rowdy evening, Kyle came to me, his face pale and tear-streaked. The rings were gone. He claimed the box must have fallen out of his jacket pocket, somewhere between the bar and our hotel. He was a mess, sobbing and apologizing, saying he had ruined everything. Jenna rushed over as soon as I called her, and she immediately went into damage control, comforting her sobbing brother while shooting me looks that begged for patience. I wanted to be angry, but their combined performance of panic and despair was so overwhelming that I just felt numb. Update 1. The next morning, the theatrics continued. Kyle was inconsolable, replaying his steps over and over. Jenna treated him like a fragile victim, coddling him and assuring him that it was just an accident and that we would figure it out. My friend Sam was skeptical. Doesn't it seem a little dramatic? He whispered to me while Kyle was having another breakdown in the bathroom. He lost his wallet once and just shrugged. Sam was right. Something felt off. Kyle's grief seemed performative, a little too loud. I told Jenna I wanted to file a police report, but she shut it down immediately. No, Mark, please. The police will just stress him out more. He feels terrible already. We can't put him through an investigation. Her fierce defense of him was strange. It felt less like protecting a grieving brother and more like managing a potential liability. I agreed to hold off on calling the police, but I told Kyle that he and I were going to retrace every single step we took last night. I framed it as a way to help him remember, but really, I wanted to watch him. We spent hours going to the same bars, talking to the same people. Nothing. Finally, I suggested we check his car. It was a long shot, but we had to look everywhere. His car was a complete mess, littered with fast food wrappers, old clothes, and random papers. They could be anywhere in here, he said with a hopeless sigh. As he was digging through the glove compartment, I searched the passenger side. I reached down into the pocket on the side of the door and my fingers brushed against a folded piece of paper. I pulled it out. It was a receipt. A crisp, new receipt from a pawn shop across town. The date on it was from 2 days ago, the day before the bachelor party even started. There was only one item listed on the receipt. 2 14K gold rings, custom engraved. The payout amount was listed next to it, $800. $800 for $10,000 worth of rings. My blood turned to ice. I looked up at Kyle, who was still rummaging in his glove box, putting on a show. I folded the receipt and put it in my pocket. I knew this was much bigger than just a lost item. This was a deliberate betrayal. Update 2. I drove home in a fog. I didn't say a word to Kyle, just told him I had a headache and needed to rest. When I walked into our apartment, Jenna rushed over to me. Any luck? She asked, her face a perfect mask of concern. I didn't answer. I just walked over to the kitchen counter and placed the pawn receipt down in front of her. Your brother isn't careless, Jenna, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. He's a thief. She stared at the receipt, and for a moment, her mask slipped. I saw pure, unadulterated panic in her eyes. Then, just as quickly, it was gone, replaced by tears. The waterworks started instantly. Oh my God, she sobbed, collapsing into a chair. I can't believe he would do this. She claimed to be shocked, horrified. But I was watching her closely now, and her acting skills weren't as good as she thought. I let her cry for a few minutes before I spoke again. Why did he get so little for them, Jenna? $800. It doesn't make any sense. That's when the real story, or at least the next layer of it, came out. She confessed that Kyle had a terrible gambling problem. He had gotten in deep with a loan shark and owed him $2,000, due by the end of the week. She said Kyle came to her in a panic, and she didn't know what to do. The rings were his idea. He was going to lose his kneecaps, Mark, she cried. I was so scared. The plan was to pawn them to pay off the immediate debt, and then I was going to use my savings to get them back before the wedding. I swear, you would have never known. She insisted it was all to protect him. She begged me to understand. She grabbed my hands, her tears wetting my skin. Please, Mark. Forgive me. I was just trying to save my brother. We can still get them back. We can fix this. Please don't cancel the wedding. I looked at the woman I thought I knew, and all I saw was a stranger. It wasn't just about the rings anymore. It was about the months of lies. She had pushed for her brother to be my best man, knowing he was an addict, knowing he was unreliable. She had put him, and his problems, right in the center of our lives. She hadn't been trying to protect her brother. She had been trying to use me to solve her family's problems. Update 3. I told Jenna I needed space. I couldn't even look at her. I packed an overnight bag and went to stay with Sam. I laid out the whole sordid story for him, from the fake tears to the gambling debts. He was furious on my behalf. You can't marry her, man, he said, his voice firm. This isn't a one-time mistake. This is a pattern. This is who her family is. I knew he was right, but a part of me was still reeling, clinging to the good memories. Was I really gonna throw away years of my life? I felt sick and confused. The next afternoon, I was sitting on Sam's couch when our shared tablet, which I had grabbed in my haste, buzzed on the coffee table. It was a notification for a new message in a group chat. The name of the group was Family Support. The members were Jenna, Kyle, and their mom Linda. I felt a jolt, a sick premonition. My hands shook as I opened the message. It was from their mom. Did he buy the story? Is the wedding still on? My heart stopped. I scrolled up. The conversation went back weeks. It was all there, a carefully orchestrated plan. Kyle's gambling debt was real, but this was more than just a desperate move. A message from Jenna, from 3 weeks ago. Mom, Mark's bonus just came in. It's huge. If we can get through this ring thing, we'll be set. Once we're married, I'll have access to the joint account and we can clear all of Kyle's debts for good. Kyle had replied. Mark is so wrapped around your finger. This is going to be easy. The lost rings drama will make him feel so sorry for me he won't even be mad. The worst message was from their mom, Linda, from the night the rings went missing. Jenna, honey, make sure you cry, but not too much. You have to look heartbroken but strong. You're the hero saving your family. Mark will eat it up. Men like him love to fix things. They weren't just enabling an addict. They were a team of grifters. And I was their Mark. The wedding, our relationship, my love for her. It was all just a tool for them to get to my money. The sickness in my stomach turned to a cold, hard certainty. There was nothing left to save. There was nothing real to begin with. Final update. I went back to the apartment that evening. Jenna was there, and she had cooked my favorite meal. She had set the table with candles, a pathetic attempt at reconciliation. Mark, you're back, she said, smiling with relief. I'm so glad. We can talk this through. I didn't say anything. I just placed the tablet on the table, the group chat open for her to see. I watched her read the messages. I watched the blood drain from her face. This time, there were no tears. There was no performance. There was only the ugly, silent truth hanging in the air between us. It's over, Jenna, I said calmly. Pack your things. I want you and your entire family out of my life. She tried to speak, but for the first time, she had no words, no script to follow. I had seen behind the curtain. The show was over. The breakup was brutal. She didn't leave gracefully. Kyle left me a series of threatening voicemails, which I promptly forwarded to the police and used to file for a restraining order against him. Their mom called me, screaming about how I was abandoning her daughter and destroying their family. I just hung up. I canceled the wedding, a surprisingly simple process compared to untangling my life from hers. I lost thousands in non-refundable deposits, but I considered it the price of my escape. I sold the engagement ring and gave the money to a local charity for addiction services. It felt right. It's been almost a year. The healing process has been slow, but steady. I've leaned heavily on my true friends, especially Sam, who I officially promoted back to best friend status. I've been in therapy to work through the trust issues this experience created. I now see all the little red flags I ignored because I wanted to believe in the fairy tale. I've learned that sometimes, the people you love are the ones who will hurt you the most. Not because they don't care, but because they care about themselves more. I don't know if I'm ready to date again, but I'm not bitter. I'm just smarter. I walked away from that relationship with nothing but the clothes on my back and a pawn shop receipt. But in the end, that receipt was the most valuable thing I owned. It was my get out of jail free card.